Welcome to the webinar. Our topic for today is about Tanzanites, and we'll talk all about it. I'd like to introduce moderator, Eric Jens. Eric Jens is a former banker in the diamond and jewelry sector. Since 2018, Eric is running a small advisory boutique, luxury fintech, helping companies in the luxury sector, particularly art and jewelry companies, in funding, growing fintech solutions, and merger and acquisition introductions. The second person I'd like to introduce is Rui. Rui is a globally recognized gemologist, author, and educator with over 30 years of experience. He has studied prestigious collections like the Portuguese crown jewels. He's founded the Home Gemology webinar series, and he's authored the best-selling GemPedia book. The third person I'd like to introduce is Katerina. Katerina is an award-winning jewelry insider, author, journalist, and luxury brand consultant with over 15 years of experience. Based in Paris, she's renowned for her expertise in high jewelry. Her mission is to inspire a love for jewelry as an art form, celebrated by one of the most engaging communities of jewelry enthusiasts worldwide. I'd also like to introduce Ashish. Ashish is the director and co-founder of Royal Touch Group. With over 27 years of experience in the gemstone industry, Ashish has dedicated his career to producing exceptional Tanzanite gemstones and jewelry. He also champions responsible sourcing and sustainable manufacturing practices. The last person, and of course, the one who is very close to the Maasai, would be Naomi. Naomi is an international acclaimed jewelry artist and gemstone carver, brings a lifetime of artistry inspired by her roles in Butte, Montana. With a background in classical sculpture and influences, she transforms gemstones into breathtaking creations that play with light, color, and movement. Welcome, panel. We'd love to have a great discussion today. Eric, why don't you kick off with a few questions that we've actually gotten from people for the panel?
Now, thank you so much, Prithvi, and thank you all for joining this beautiful panel with esteemed specialists from all over the world, from the US to Asia to everywhere, and even our beloved Portugal, and spending time to educate and to talk about with each other and with the audience about the beautiful Tanzanite, and each from his own perspective. There's one person also I think we want to introduce, is Jeff Mosley, working very closely together with Ashish, and who has a lot of passion and experience about Tanzanite. He spent time at the mine, and he's actually a very famous person on QTV talking about Tanzanite. So Jeff, welcome to the panel as well. And yeah, Ashish and Jeff will talk about their passion on Tanzanite and the colored stones, and of course, and yeah, basically also their personal stories. It's all about storytelling indeed, and especially when we talk about gemstones. And Ruby, of course, the richest story of colored gemstones over the ages, and yeah, you already talked about your book. I mean, it's a very impressive work. It's going to be digitalized, I heard. So hopefully you can share a little bit more about that as well. And Naomi talked about her artworks and of course the award-winning Guinness Book of Records, L'Heure Bleue. We talk about it later. And of course, Katerina talked about her rich experience, and who doesn't know Katerina from the shows and the posts and everything else, but you share your passion in a wonderful way. So really, really thank you for being here. So let's kick off here, maybe to start with Ashish. You just got out of a plane, you visit your clients, and you are actually literally out of the plane, and you came back from the factory. So tell us a little bit more about the Royal Touch Group, and also why you became so fascinated with Tanzania, the people, and basically for that reason, because you were so passionate, become one of the largest manufacturers in Tanzanite. So share us a little bit your view.
Hello, everyone, and Eric, thank you for the introduction. Yeah, Emirates came in clutch, and everything worked out perfect, so I made it in time. And thank you, panel. I'm extremely honored to be amongst all you people here today. I'm extremely, and Prithvi and Eric for moderating this wonderful webinar today. I think for our industry, it's extremely important to make people aware of who we are and what we do and how passionate we are about all the things that we bring within the industry to the consumers. Royal Touch has been a prominent player in the industry for several years. I'm third generation into this group. My grandfather actually started this, and my father actually scaled it up to manufacture colored gemstones. And when I joined the business in mid 90s, I became extremely fascinated after a couple of years when I was introduced to Tanzanite, which to me is the most beautiful blue gemstone. Extremely rare. It's a brand new gemstone. It's been only out. We I think we found it about 55 odd years ago, and I became extremely fascinated. And once I visited Tanzania, my appreciation towards this just grew to a different level when I found out that this is a primary deposit, and how important it is to the local community, the Maasai tribe. And it's just an incredible story when it comes to this gemstone.
Oh, wonderful. And yeah, actually, it's a very relatively young gemstone, you said, and I think that makes it also so special. But the question then for Ruby maybe, I mean, Tanzanite being a relatively young gemstone, how has it gained so much significance in and such a recognition actually in the gemological industry and with the consumers?
Well, Eric, good morning. Is it to me or to Ashish?
Yeah, for Ruby, yeah.
Firstly, thank you very much for the invitation to be with all of you. It's really a pleasure and privilege to share the floor with you guys and Eric. And you are now my neighbor in my country, so it's good to see you on screen so near me. So yes, that's a very interesting question because, as Ashish was pointing out, Tanzanite was actually found reportedly on January 1967 when the Gudu Jumane Ngome, a local tribesman, was walking around the area and came across lovely blue crystals. He collected a few kilograms of them, and then he tried to figure out what they were. He was not paid the fair price for it, but eventually a Portuguese guy, his name was Manuel de Souza. He was born in Goa, but Goa was still a Portuguese colony in 1913 when he was born. He also came across the material, and the first claims on the material were entitled to Manuel de Souza, that Portuguese guy from Goa that immigrated to Tanzania to look for rubies and gold, and he eventually came across Tanzanite. Actually, the world esteem for Tanzanite has, I think it's a really good marriage between two things: the gemstone itself, the beauty of it, and the scarcity, and the fact that it only comes, as far as we know today, from one particular area in Tanzania. And then we have the other, because Henry Platt, the very famous president of Tiffany, in 1968, he recognized the value of it, and along with Heyman Soul and John Soul, they came out with this beautiful name Tanzanite to honor the country. And he hired Donald Claflin, and for those of you that don't know, he was a wonderful, a very high-end jewelry designer that worked at Tiffany's at the same time of Jean Schlumberger. So it was a very high-level designer. He eventually worked for Bulgari 1 decade later, but he made the very first jewelry piece using the new Tiffany exciting gemstone that was dubbed Tanzanite by Tiffany. So Tiffany was pretty much behind the marketing, especially in the US, of this brand new colored gemstone. And we know that for decades, almost since the 19th century, no new relevant colored gemstone had actually emerged for high-end jewelry. And so I think it was a mixture of two things: the actual story and also the fact that it is a beautiful gemstone, and there is scarce, and it only comes from one single area as far as we know today.
Exactly. Well, you never know where we can start finding some more. But I guess geological is going to be very difficult to find out somewhere else. But you talk very interesting about the history of Tanzanite and the origin. And I think Katrina, you have a beautiful book there with you. Maybe you want to show it. And I think Naomi, your jewelry piece is also in there. But it's a great book. So everyone, who wants to know more about the book, you can say something about it, maybe, Katrina.
Well, that's the only book which is solely dedicated to Tanzanites, and it allows you to discover the wealth of beauty of this stone, the variety of designs, because here, I don't know if you'll be able to see, hold on. So this book has a review of completely different designs of different companies to make you understand that it's such an interesting stone to work with from creative prospect. It's used in so many different ways in a faceted form, in cabochon, even in, actually, I'm going to show it to you because I'll never forget this jewel, which has, it's a pendant with a rough Tanzanite. And you see, no matter how the gemstone is fashioned, it holds this unique beauty. And, you know, you can always see this hint of color which mixes the purple and the blue, and no other gemstone can offer that. So I think this is the uniqueness of the stone. But also, I don't know how you feel about it, but I think it's a stone of sophistication, elegance, certain glamour, you know, it screams glamour. And also, I think the beauty of Tanzanite that you can find it in quite large sizes. So designers really have the wealth of different material to play with. They can make statement jewelry, they can make wearable pieces. So I think this is the beauty of Tanzanite, the color, the uniqueness, and also large sizes that can be used for designs.
Yeah, and I think the book is still available, and I think it was written by Haley Henning and DJ Broadbeck. So it's a unique collection also of basically all the different brands, very luxury brands in one book. It makes it very special. So yeah, for instance, it's stunning. But maybe that's a nice bridge to you, Naomi. I mean, you are in the book and with your beautiful carving, and maybe it's a nice bridge. How does Tanzanite inspire your designs and your what makes it different from other gemstones, and what made you go in this whole passion around Tanzanite? What's your experience?
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of the panel here. This is a very exciting group to be associated with. And my experience with the Maasai was sort of the dream of an anthropologist's life. It was never in my mind that I wanted to end up going to Africa. And Haley invited me through Intercolor to come to the mines and pick out a crystal to create a piece for an international competition. And the minute that I got there, I saw, thank you very much, Katerina.
Thanks, yes.
I saw that these were an extraordinary people. And they were very greatly impoverished, and they were suffering from eye disease. So as I was looking for a crystal to carve, I said that the profits from the sale of this crystal would go for eye care for the Maasai. Now, I knew that they were very talented with their hands, and they've done incredibly wonderful beadwork, which I'm wearing today. And I was asked if, when I was there at the mine, if I would do some humanitarian work. And I said, of course, because they live in the foothills of Kilimanjaro, there's not always consistent electricity or water there. And their experience with machines was very limited. So because of my understanding of their beadwork, I suggested that they learn how to wire wrap. And they took to it like crazy. I had left some books there overnight, and the next morning they had made all of the designs out of the books, even though they can't read. And at one point they made a necklace, and they spelled my name, but because they can't read, it's backwards.
Oh, no.
And yeah, I mean, it's a very dear piece for me. So they were able to learn how to wire wrap Tanzanite, which they are entitled to pick up on the ground, as you mentioned, Roy. It was just sort of laying there, because the mines are on their ancestral lands. These are old people, and they have been there for a long time. So they were able to make fabulous jewels and sell them in tourist shops in Tanzania, and then eventually in the Smithsonian in the United States, which is a very big deal. So in Tanzanite, and the carving is so tied up with who these people are. I wanted to be helpful to them, and I also wanted to show this gem in its best way. And what you're looking at now are some of the processes that I used to create this Tanzanite carving. Of course, when you're carving something, you're bound by the parameters of the piece itself, of the rough material itself. And because Tanzanite is a very rare material, and it's also trichroic, you have to consider the rough material as a part of the whole design. You can't add on more once you take it off. So the crystal, let me pull this up here. The crystal is like this. This is a very unusual size of very fine Tanzanite. But it looks large from the front, but it's narrow. So what do you do with something like that? And most of the time, when people go to carve a piece, they start at the top. Well, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to leave the natural point and show the facets of the top, the natural planes of the crystal. So I turned it upside down.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Special.
There we go. I carved from the root, and I wanted to express what it's like to be there with the wind blowing down from Kilimanjaro. At night, we would watch the sun go down, and Kilimanjaro would change colors, and the clouds would come by. It was extraordinary. The desert there, and of course the Maasai and their fabulous, colorful outfits. So the carving is wavy, as though the wind was coming and going, and the setting for it is also my expression of the winds coming down the Rift Valley and embracing this very unusual community.
Well, very
right
good.
there.
That's
Very, very special, and we can see the flow almost, and we see your vision and your inspiration. So that was very, very helpful. Thank you so much. And maybe going back to Ashish, and why do you think that and Jeff, you can chip in there as well, of course, but well, everyone can chip in. But why do you think that Tanzanite is actually quite undervalued compared to other gemstones, and what is very unique from a single source in Tanzania we spoke about? I mean, it's more rare than diamonds. But why do you think it's or undervalued compared to blue sapphires? Why that's so unique? So have you any idea? Will it catch up? I mean, you see what's happening with the ruby prices year to date, of the last 12 months or so. But do you see something happening for Tanzanite as well?
It's a great question, Eric. And I think it has to do everything with awareness. And as Rui rightly pointed out earlier, the stone was found in 1967. When you talk about, when we always talk about the big four, emeralds, rubies, sapphires, diamonds, these stones are found in multiple countries, within those countries, in multiple regions. Tanzanite is only found in one place. But since it was only found about 50 odd years ago, I believe we need to have more webinars like this where we can educate people and, bring light to its scarcity and as to how rare this gemstone is. There are companies who are calling it a generational gemstone. Since it's a finite source, since this is the primary deposit, and we all know that this is the deepest mined color gemstone, we know the deposit is going to be depleted. There is a tremendous amount in the pipeline. That's why we see the value where it is right now. But when you factor in the rarity, eventually it will go up. And we have had several examples like the Paribas tourmalines or the Alexandrites, wherein they were trading very, very inaccurately as far as the perception of value is concerned, and how prices have skyrocketed after the deposits have been depleted. So I think it has to do with the awareness, and the awareness has to do with how recent the stone has been found. But we all need to consider, as to how beautiful this gemstone is. And I think we are all very, very fortunate and lucky to see the availability of this gemstone during our times.
Absolutely, and maybe
Sorry.
chipping into you, Jeff. Right, and there's also a little video we can share a little bit about the mine and the loose stones, etc. So maybe we can.
Yeah, I think what I want to chip in on top of what Naomi said and the beautiful pictures in the book as well is that this is a gemstone that also has such a wide range of color. From the very lightest and the palest to the very deep, dark, vivid colors, there's great value to them all. Obviously, the deeper, the darker, the better. I personally took a trip down this past October, and I went down with the Royal Touch Group, and I went to the very depth of about 3,500 feet on the mine cart with the chief geologist, with the team director, with the safety operator. It was an incredible experience. We then walked another 1,200 feet. So we went to over 4,000 feet into the mine and really saw everything going on, really got to appreciate the passion that these people have. And, I'll tell you something else that was pretty amazing. And I know that Naomi's time down there reminds me of my time with the Maasai tribe and many others down there. But I love the fact that while we were in the mine, it was a work day, meaning they were actually working on some of the areas of the mine. And there were students walking past us at 4,000 feet, that were there training, both men and women, to train to be a part of this. And, going back to what the value again, I honestly have been to so many shows with Royal Touch lately, introducing Tanzanite, the finest quality Tanzanite. And it's pretty amazing I love my sapphires and I love my rubies and emeralds, but when you see them go from a fine case of sapphires, which they've seen for years, and then they move their eyes over to this Tanzanite, they have the wow factor. Like they are like, what is this? So it's still very much about education. Seminars like this that we can help educate not only consumers, but suppliers, vendors, manufacturers, people that have really not been exposed to it yet, I think will be just incredibly surprised with the wow factor, but also the story. When I spent time down there, I just fell in love with the area. I love that we're protecting the area. I love that we're helping the area of Tanzania and the Maasai and just the local economy. There's just so much love in there, but the world just doesn't know enough about it.
That's
very good.
That's actually really interesting. I was actually wondering if you could actually tell us a bit more about how Tanzanites are responsibly sourced and how it's kind of like shaped the future of the gemstone and jewelry industry and the Maasai people. In particular, Ashish, Jeff, if y'all would like to let us know.
Yeah, I'll let Ashish start it off, and then I'll just kind of add some color commentating to his expertise.
See, responsible sourcing is extremely important for not only the integrity of jewelry industry, but also for the local people who are involved in its day-to-day trading and mining. The area of Meralani has about, I believe, I could be wrong with the numbers, but somewhere around 10,000 people who are directly or indirectly affected by the whole mining operation of Tanzanite. And that's huge. By doing it right, you're not only, helping the industry, but you're also helping the local community in their upliftment. You're protecting the environment, you're creating jobs, making sure things are done in the right way when it comes to the people, the planet, the product. So, Royal Touch Group has taken this initiative of responsible sourcing very, very seriously. We've become certified by several trade bodies like Responsible Jewelry Council. And, we adhere to very strict policies of identifying our mining partners and making sure that all their practices are in accordance to the local governing bodies and within our industry standards.
Yeah, and on top of that, and I'm going to read this from this WhatsApp message so I don't, disrespect it. So I continue to stay in communications with the chief geologist, who's a 33-year veteran who basically runs Block C and Tanzanite mines. Wonderful man. And I just let him know we were going to be doing this. And he said, please let them know that the presence of the Tanzanite gemstone in Maasai land has raised their economy through the majority of them involved in mining, buying, selling, and brokering. Also, the Maasai are now interacting more with many people, learning useful cultures as opposed to before. This is truly helping our social services, schools, hospitals. All of them have been improved because of the support of Tanzanite. And this is, as many of you have maybe even met him before, he's a wonderful man. What I love about this area too is that the government does play a part in this now, and we're seeing an increase in that more so, which really, again, ensures the safety, ensures the support, the security, the ethical mining. Here's another really good fact that I think is important. I spoke with them and I said, how many miners are in the mines right now? Because we're at 4,000 feet. Everybody's wondering how long this is going to last. And he said, Jeff, we have almost 400 employees here in Block C right now. He said, but we could do this with maybe even less than 300. But we refuse to overwork people. We give them 8-hour shifts. We run 3 shifts a day, sometimes 4 if they really need to. They often take a day off for making sure everything's safe and secure in the mining area of Block C. So, he really said this is really impacting the area's economy, and really it's one of those areas that people really love to be a part of.
Well, very good. Doing well, but doing good. And makes a little bridge to Ruby, maybe, if that's okay. We talked about the stone itself and the rich history there in Tanzania, what's doing, but what makes the color spectrum of this wow effect Jeff was talking about? What makes it so special, I think, and how is Tanzanite graded? And do you have some examples of some historic jewels made by Tanzanite, made with Tanzanite? So it's a lot of questions there in one, basically. But tell us a little bit about the inside of the stone.
Me again?
Yes, of course.
Although the question is interesting, there aren't that much historical jewelries. There might be jewels that were used by celebrities, and we have here people on the panel much more knowledgeable about them than I am. I would like to underline one thing that sometimes is overlooked. If Mr. Gudu, if he was walking on the area today and he was to find any Tanzanites as today, he would probably find brownish crystals, not bluish crystals, because since the 1960s up until now, the area of the geological formation where the nice blues originally came, the natural color ones, they are, as far as we know, exhausted. And all of the other geological formation, they would give us beautiful brownish material. But if you follow me on this thing, imagine that this box is like the geological formation of Tanzanite. And because of its normal geological formation, those originally brownish crystals, they actually had something hot near to him, like imagine like a kind of a volcanic or submagmatic activity that with the heat, they experienced natural heat, and immediately they started to change, because I'm not going into technicalities about how you change the color, but the vanadium content in the Tanzanite with heat changed a little bit, and those originally brown beautiful crystals, they turn into the more desirable purplish or bluish violet ones. But they didn't affect all the geological formation, only part of it. And those for luck were the ones that were discovered in the 60s. From a few decades on, the brownish material has been the one available, but technology and mankind, with our intelligence, we discovered that with a gentle heat treatment, just a little above 500 degrees Celsius, we can restore, or we can do, romantically speaking, finish the work that nature was already doing. But it's of course a treatment. But if we think about that, we are just finishing what the planet didn't. So we can understand that those heated tanzanites, that's basically the majority of material available today, they are only with us because we figured out how nature did it. And talking about it, I think it's also important because the very original ones, they had not a different color, but a different kind of, I'm going to say a gibberish word in gemology, pleochorism. Depending on the direction of where you look at them, they had a different color distribution. The ones that are heated today, they have another. So that's the way we can sometimes figure out if they were treated or not. But that is very interesting to understand that because of our ingenuity, we figured out how nature did it, and we are just finishing what nature didn't finish. So today, the production of Tanzanite is primarily of heated material. That is actually an accepted trade practice. There is nothing wrong with heating material. I mean, there is nothing wrong with treating anything, provided that you disclose. And for example, if you are members of major trade associations like CIBJO, GTA, ICA, you are invited to fully disclose what you do to the gemstone. And this is one of the cases where you disclose that is a normal, very gentle, just above 500 degrees Celsius heat that will give the originally brownish tanzanite its more desirable color.
Okay. And maybe a question there for you as well, Rui. I mean, there's a big debate there with lab-grown diamonds, and basically you can have lab-grown gemstones basically for every gemstone, but not for tanzanite, from what I understood.
No, not yet. Not yet. I mean,
they've tried, but they were not able to do so.
We do have a lot of Tanzanite imitations, glass, for example. We also have vitreous ceramics. We have synthetic corundum, synthetic sapphire that can be grown by different methods, and even synthetic forstrite, which in other words is synthetic olivine. That can be. It has been one of the most popular imitations or substitutes for Tanzanite. YAG, which is a artificial garnet structured silicate, is also another imitation. So you can have a lot of them, but not synthetic Tanzanite. I'm sorry, I'm not using the word laboratory grown. That's a commercial term. I'm using the scientific one. Synthetic Tanzanites, they don't exist as far as I know commercially.
I'm learning. Thank you for the education here, Rui. Thanks a lot. I'll stick to that. But then talk about...
Eric, I just want to bring in, on Rui's point about the acceptable, heating processes. Rubies, sapphires, morganites, aquamarines, majority of, a lot of these gemstones, exotic gemstones in today's world, do have this acceptable process of heat treatment. But Tanzanite is actually relatively heated at the lowest temperature amongst all these gemstones. So yes, it was a great point, but that also stabilizes the stone a lot more. And it's not a part of enhancement, but yes, it is a part of heating the gemstone from the brown to the beautiful blue violet.
It's also easier than to do the carving, otherwise it's not hard enough indeed. So, but talk about the disclosure and talk about these things. It brings me a little bit to the consumer, and I think Katrina, you're very close to the consumer as well. That's okay, Prithvi. And we just had the Golden Globes with the red carpet, and you see all the shows. But are there any trends you see on Tanzanite? I was looking at the Golden Globe where the celebrities had Tanzanite, but I didn't see it.
No, because red carpets, celebrities play it safe. They opt mostly for diamonds. And of course, there is a splash of color here and there, but when it comes to Tanzanite, yes, it's been present on the red carpets. And one of the first memories of mine of the red carpet was from 2011. I think it was Kate Blanchett who wore a beautiful Tanzanite necklace, which looked like nothing else I've seen. But what I can say is that if we go to high jewelry collections, to all the Place Vendôme brands, I go every year. So every July, there is a big hoo-ha in Paris about presenting new high jewelry collections. And past July, there was Tanzanite in Gucci. There was Tanzanite in Bulgari. There was Tanzanite in Chopard. There was even Tanzanite with Mikimoto, who specialize in pearls and not colored stones, but they have a beautiful bow necklace with a large cabochon shape Tanzanite. There was also Tanzanite Holland with Tiffany. Tiffany is, as we were speaking, one of the first to, the first to bring Tanzanite to high jewelry. And this year they kind of amplified the significance of Tanzanite in so many creations of the Blue Book collection. So even though we don't see much of it on the red carpet, in high jewelry, it's gaining more and more popularity and presence. And I think one of the reasons is what I was saying, that Tanzanites come in large sizes and you can really make a statement, beautiful design with it. And normally what we see in design with Tanzanite, since it's such a unique and significant stone, often the design around it kind of complement the center stone, rather than being very flamboyant and taking attention of the Tanzanites. However, of course, high jewelry maisons, they have the ability to explore their creativity to the maximum, and you will see some humongous necklaces with not just a Tanzanite, but complementing stones and the big array of them. So I did write an article about Tanzanites and high jewelry back in December, because actually Tanzanite is the first stone of December. Yeah, so if anyone here reads my website, katerinaperez.com, you'll be able to dive into the design with Tanzanite there.
That's
and what should the, sorry?
Oh, no, I was just going to ask, that's very interesting. In fact, she was talking about how big the gem, what do you call it? Like all about like Tanzanite and how it's kind of like complementing a lot of jewelry. I was actually wondering, what's the biggest Tanzanite that you've seen so far? Like you've seen a lot of gems over there. You've seen a lot of jewelry. You've literally like seen everything. So,
Yes.
Well, going back to Royal Touch, I think they surprised me a lot at the Vicenza Oro Show last year, or what is it? No, last year when I saw the 250 carat oval Tanzanite. There was a glimpse on it in the video that you showed before. And I was thinking, this is such a magnificent stone, but what do you do with this? But I believe not all the stones need to be set in jewelry. You know, some stones are purely for being collected and admired and being in a museum, you know, to admire the wonders of nature. It's not always just to be worn. So 250 carats, I'll never forget that.
Yeah. Well, I think, Naomi, how much was yours again?
Sorry?
703 carats. The world's largest carved Tanzanite. And I'd like to add something. Not only is this large, but it was a very particular type of material to carve, because even though Tanzanite has been heated by the earth, it doesn't like heat. And when you're carving it, you have to be very careful not to get a hot spot, because she'll say, oh no, I don't like that, and develop a fracture, a rainbow fracture, almost within seconds. It isn't, carving Tanzanite is not like faceting it when you have a flat surface. When you're carving it, you're always carving it with a round surface that kind of focuses the heat at that very, very particular spot, and will make it say, oh no, you're burning me, go away. And so this is not normal material. This is not like carving quartz or topaz or aquamarine, which I enjoy greatly. This is a very special material that has to be treated with a great deal of respect.
You did, and the Guinness Book of Records recognized it. So for that, so very, very well done. I think we're getting a little bit at the end of the conversation, and maybe one question there for Ashish, and I mean, and that relate a little bit to what Katerina said. It's a unique gemstone. I think in this conversation we can all show that and experience that. So what's your vision for the future of Tanzanite, Ashish, and everybody can chip in, of course, but and the application in jewelry and the future. So for instance, especially how rare the material is, and and basically undervalued. We spoke about it as well, and it has the wow effect. What can the industry do better actually to bring it to closer to the consumer and to make sure that there's this appreciation? So again, it's a big question, but share your view on that, please, Ashish. I know it's something on your mind every day. So tell me.
It's my favorite gemstone. It's an incredible story. And I have to share this, Katrina, also, that about a year ago, I believe Smithsonian approached us and acquired one of our other larger Tanzanites. It was a flawless, over 400 carat pear shape, just a phenomenal gemstone. And they had a few people visiting the show who were just awestruck when they saw it and approached Smithsonian that they wanted to get the stone into Smithsonian. So it reflects as to how amazing this gemstone is when you're able to get these gemstones in these sizes, which are type 1. They're incredibly clean and beautiful. There was I feel Tanzanite is extremely undervalued, and it can only go up. It continues to be the #1 gemstone across all the networks and also cruise ships when it comes to color gemstones in terms of volume of sales. It's all about us and these important brands to highlight, and we continuously see how they are into all the high jewelry. It's continuing to come into all the high jewelry collections of all the major brands. So I feel it's an extremely undervalued gemstone, and it's the most beautiful blue gemstone out there.
And I would say, to piggyback with Ashish, I worked for some of those high-end stores, luxury brands over the years, and this is going to be tying in with, like, if I go and look at Raul, when I look at your post and your knowledge and the hundreds of years, or if not thousands of years, that people have respected and loved the rubies and emeralds and sapphires, it's a comfort zone. Like, this is when you see these big luxury brands that give joy to celebrities, it's that comfort zone, it's that confidence, it's the education they already have on rubies and emeralds and sapphires, and I respect those, grateful. But it's the uneducation of Tanzanite, the lack of exposure, that's what's kind of held back, right? If I do a big event at one of those big stores that I used to work for, and we have a big invite only, you would still see just a few Tanzanites, but they were always the best and the biggest. So I do feel like as we continue to educate everyone on the value of it, the problem is it's a short lifespan compared to many other gemstones that'll be around for another thousands of years. But I think that's the real key. When we see the education side and the comfort zone of talking about it and selling it, that's what works. If they don't have time to talk about it and educate people on it, then it's really, if they don't know about it.
Talk about education. I think, Ruby, that's your lifetime effort, and I think did you show the book already? Your book with the GemPedia. I mean, for all gemstone lovers.
I have strategically placed GemPedia around so you can. It's like a disguised marketing, but yes, this is the monster. It's a 700-page boring dictionary of 7,000 terms of gemology. Tanzanite is, of course, there, and many other gem materials as well. And all the imitations of Tanzanite, they are mentioned there as well. And regarding education, people, sometimes we wonder, why do we have so many advertising on washing machine detergents? And sometimes they are silly. Because once you see the brand, when you go to the supermarket, that's the one you're going to pick up from the shelf. And marketing and advertising has that effect. And so educating, firstly, the trade, so the trade can educate the public, the consumer. I think that's the key. There is the big five, or the big four, if you want to call them, like the rubies, diamonds, emeralds, and if you want to add pearls. They have been around for, as you've said, for thousands of years, and they have adorned the crown jewels over the centuries. And other colored gemstones, they struggled a lot to do so. But in the 20th century, with the emergence of middle classes that were not they were not in existence 300 years ago. There are huge opportunities to market new gemstones, and the big brands, one of the reasons maybe the big brands are now using more Tanzanite than ever, has to do also with the consistency of the mining, of the consistencies of the availability of the product. Because if it is not consistent enough, and if it is not regular enough to have a nice quality calibrated sizes and colors in fine Tanzanite, maybe if it is not for a center stone, maybe you cannot invest on a collection on those high ends, on those high brands. So I think the stars are aligned at this moment to create opportunities to market the stone in a better way. It's a mature stone, is older than any of us here on the panel. So, I think it already deserves some more structured education. And of course, I'm pushing my agenda of education because I think educating the trade, the salespeople, that they are the most important people in our industry. They are the ones facing the consumer that pay all our bills. And
Exactly.
those are the ones where we should invest more in the education. So structured or non-structured, that's the key to make people get emotional about this beautiful gemstone with a lot of storytelling around it. And why not just looking at it and saying, wow, it's beautiful, because that's the magic
Exactly.
of gemstones.
And that's why I like to have more webinars, what Ashley said already. And hopefully we can organize one at the end of February, early March, again about Tanzanite, but also more specifically about the Maasai and everything else. So yeah, we are very deep into this. So let's round up a little bit, if that's okay. Is there any one thing here from the esteemed panelists which you want to add, what we haven't touched upon? Because we have some questions from the audience. But is there anything we've missed? And basically, we talk a lot about the untapped potential of Tanzanite, but anything you want to add, dear panels?
Like, is there anything that you'd want to leave the audience with about Tanzanite?
Yeah, exactly.
I think the bottom line here is that there has to be more awareness about Tanzanite, and historically or by industry, the iconic color and the most desired is this blue purple. But again, thanks to Royal Touch, when I saw the teal Tanzanite, which the gentleman who was showing me the stone, he said this is the rarest I've ever seen, and you haven't even thought that a Tanzanite can be of a teal color, and of course the brownish colors as well. I believe that it's not about the stone and its value, it's what the designer does with it that actually makes it so special. And I like the comment, actually, maybe I'll read it. I was looking at this comment from Antoinette. Where is it? That she said, I think there is also an important market for the brownish material by cutting beautiful and very wearable gems, as was done with the diamonds, right? Brownish, yellowish, grayish diamonds, and usually cutting applied to the less desirable color in the questions, in comments, but one that can be worn with everything. Cutting and promotion would change the level of interest in the originally brownish Tanzanite, which I completely agree with. Marketing is everything. So let's spread more awareness. This is the bottom.
Yeah, I remember nobody wanted to have brown diamonds until the very smart retailer came up with it, and he's very successful, as we all know. So yeah, it was a good point. And anything else, Ruby, Naomi, Ashish?
Yes, I'd like to say that one of the things that is very unusual about Tanzanite is that it is associated with a very specific place on Earth, and it is associated with a very specific and extraordinary group of human beings, the Maasai. So the further the education goes in terms of the gem itself, it also embraces a very particular part of humanity that people really do need to know about.
And Naomi, I think that's the key, is this is a single source gem that is not just about the gem, but it's about the culture. It's about the people that are involved, the area involved. It's different than most gemstones because there's so many other sources for the gems. And I think the importance on this one is making sure that it's not just looked at as just the gemstone, but also the foundation of the stone, the culture of the Maasai tribe. And going back to, the education, that's so important for me, is for everybody to understand the truth and not, say it's going to be, hey, do I hear it's going to be gone in a week or two? That's just crazy. This is why we went into the mines. This is why we look at everything, and we really ask the right questions, because we want to make sure everybody is on the same page from that standpoint of availability, the relationship with the local economy, and how important everything is to keep it there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I flipped through some of the Q&As, we just have suddenly a lot of questions coming in, but one struck my eye was, and maybe that's for Ashish, that from Ricardo. He says, is there in Europe like a governing body or a list of trustworthy Tanzanite wholesalers directly from the source? I don't think there's this kind of source, but you were referring to the mine to market strategies you have, so that you know exactly that the consumer knows what is buying, what he or she is buying, and where it's coming from, and how it's being handled. And we mentioned earlier AGTA and ICA and those kind of bodies. Can you talk, because the consumer confidence, consumer trust is extremely important, and we know that some stones lost the consumer trust, but how is that specifically for Tanzanite, and what's your experience? Now, of course, everybody can chip in here, but...
So, great question again, and I think it has to do with who you're partnering with. When it comes to a retailer, a wholesaler, you want to make sure you're doing your due diligence and finding out, where the stones are sourced from. And, when it comes to several group of companies who are, who follow the responsible mining protocols, are the ones you want to partner up with. All the major brands, they're very, very particular about where the stones are coming out of. And similarly, companies like Royal Touch, and there are a few others also in the industry who are members of RJC, AGTA, JBT, ICA, making sure that we are following the ethical trade practices are the ones you wanna stick to in terms of sourcing your gemstones.
Very good.
That's really interesting. We also have one question from Antoinette. I think it's a very interesting question, I would say, and I think it might be directed more towards Ashish and Jeff. How much longer is the production of gem quality material predicted to be, and in what size by comparison to what is now being produced?
So, Jeff, do you want to take it, or you want me to answer this?
You go ahead,
start.
and I'll fill in after.
Yeah. So, we all talk about nobody can predict as to how much longer you'll continue to find Tanzanite. We've had estimates that this is going to be depleted within the next decade or so. But one thing that I can tell you, Prithvi, is Tanzanite is the deepest mined color gemstone it's mined almost close to 1,500 meters under the ground. Just to put things into perspective, you're talking about 450 floors under the ground. There are two types of mining operations. You talk about hard rock mining, which is also known as primary deposit, and alluvial mining, which is the secondary deposit. Emeralds, rubies, sapphires, most of these gemstones are alluvial. That means during the historic tectonic plate movements, they traveled from their original source to a certain area, to a different area, to a foreign area, I should say, and that's where they have been mining it. But Tanzanite, since it's hard rock, is at its original source. So we know it is a finite source, and we expect that it's not going to last for a very long time. But it could be 5 years, it could be 15 years. But yes, this is the deepest mined color gemstone, and we have mined it very aggressively in the last 50 years. So, and I believe, Jeff, when we were there about 7 or 8 years ago, this was at 700 meters. So for the first 48 years, they mined 700 meters. In the next 7 or 8 years, they've mined it another 800 meters. So you can tell as to how aggressively it has been, mined, and that probably reflects to the value also.
Yeah, I think I just piggyback on that and say, after going down there myself, taking that 4K camera down there, which I'm claustrophobic, to be honest with you, but I did not let go of that camera. I mean, and I think I'm going to go back to Naomi. When I sat there with these wonderful people, we spoke so long with them, and they invited me to go into a mine that I've been, technically working with for years. I can't say no. maybe even my wife and kids said say no, but I went. And at 4,000 feet into the ground, the 3 Empire State Buildings, you can see that, yes, there are bags of rough coming up every 5 feet on conveyor belts, but most of that is just graphite and rubble until they can get up there and see what's going on. So there will never be, in my opinion, a accurate prediction on it. But the simple fact is, it is one of those single source stones, a handful in the world that are single source. So, you know, at 4,000 feet with only one really working mine, I don't know how much longer it can go. I hope it goes for a long time because it's wonderful people that it's providing for. So I hope they keep pushing strong and that it has a long life, but we'll see.
Yeah. No, I think it was life-changing for you, from what I understood, Jeff. And I think the same kind of experience Naomi had when she visited the Maasai people and
Sure.
the area. So yeah, life-changing. And I know these feelings. So there's one question I think that we have to round up. It's more kind of a technical question about the relationship with the government and how's the relation with the government and how the proceeds are the Maasai people really, because this webinar is called Tanzanite Gem of the Maasai. Is it really getting to the people indeed? I think we already answered that earlier, but how's the relation with the government? And if you is there any system coming up with certification or appraisal systems locally or any new developments over there? Maybe for you, Ashish or Jeff?
Well, I mean, I kind of mentioned earlier, you know, the direct quote from the chief gemologist or geologist at the mine, 33-year veteran, really expressing his honest opinion on how this is impacting the local economy, how it's giving back to the local, you know, health issues, making it easier for them. When you go to the mine and you see, it's beautiful to see, you know, 300 motorcycles out there with, you know, Maasai tribe members coming to work and going back and forth into different shifts. You can definitely see it's having a good impact on them and how important it is. You know, that's kind of my best I can say on that one.
And there's a good relationship with the government. I mean, we all see what's happening sometimes in the ruby market and in Africa whatsoever. But that's not the case.
It's very important. Like when you go down there now, it's very different. You know, 2019, that wall went up to protect that block for a reason, and it was to keep, you know, vandals from coming in and illegally taking it. It was to keep people from getting hurt and going in areas where they shouldn't. And now with the government involved, it's really much more structured with literally safety officers, safety directors. You know, the commissioners are on site. You've got, you know, military personnel as well that can, you know, make sure who goes in and who goes out. So I think that is giving them, I know it does give them confidence for safety and security on their end, but it also shows that they're invested in still giving back.
Very good. Okie dokie. One final question maybe for you, Katerina, as you have always the last word. But what role, and maybe it's an open door, what role do you see social media and the modern marketing playing for this beautiful gemstone, and what can we all do about it? I mean, we had a lot of listeners or participants in this webinar, so we can all make them enthusiastic to of course follow you, but also follow all of us in this webinar, and I think social media related could do a lot. What's your view?
You know, I think social media offers a lot of free education. When I started 13 years back, you know, the jewelry industry and gemstone industry was so much behind the scenes, and that if someone wanted to educate themselves, they had to go to a gemology course, get a book about gemology. There wasn't so much online. When nowadays, if you hear Tanzanite, you want to learn more about it, there is articles online, there is social media as well that helps you to visually understand the stone as well as read about it. So it makes it much more accessible. And you can be in any part of the world, grab your phone in your hands and, you know, put a hashtag in your Instagram Tanzanite and see a variety of designs, maybe some educational materials and so on. And plus, I think it helps to learn about Tanzanite in small snippets, right? Because on social, there's hardly ever long length content. Usually it's 30 seconds videos or pictures that you can flip through, and that allows you to accumulate the knowledge in small parts and adjust it to, you know, your busy daily life. So I think the accessibility of the stone that social media really helps with.
Absolutely.
At the same time,
Wonderful.
like with everything, you have to know that you're following the right person, that the content they provide is true, and you know, that you are learning the right kind of information about Tanzanite.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I think we should round it up, Prithvi. What do you think?
I think we're good. I think so. If anyone else has any questions, please feel free to send it to us on info@gematlas.com, and we will definitely forward the same to our panelists. I'm sure they're very keen to answer your questions as well. But I think now we've come to an end of our discussion, and we'd like to thank our panelists and moderator for the great webinar, and we thank you all for participating and being so active and engaged. Hope you have a great day ahead, everyone.
Thank you so much. It's
And
been
we have
exciting.
a lot of questions left, so we
Bye-bye.
answer.
Yes, a lot of
Thank
questions.
you all.
Thank you.
And will
Bye-bye.
people have access to the recording?
Yes, they will definitely have access to the recording. It'll be on YouTube, on our channel, GemAtlas. So please feel free to view the recording whenever you would like to.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
all. Take care. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.